Like the shit I write in my raps, it's documented, I'm in it. Every day of the week, I live in it, breathe in it. It's more than just fucking believing it. I'm holding in ones, rolling up my sleeves and shit. It's CeeLo for push-ups now.
As it seems, the American dream ain't nothing but another calculated scheme to get us locked up, shot up and back in chains, to deny us of the future, rob our name, kept my history a mystery, but now I see the American dream wasn't meant for me, cause Lady Liberty's a hypocrite, she lied to me, promised me freedom, education, equality, never gave me nothing but slavery, and now look at how dangerous you made me, calling me a madman, cause I'm strong and bold, with this gun full of knowledge of the lies you told, promised me emancipation, and this new nation. All you ever gave my people was salvation. Fathers of his country never cared for me. They kept my ancestors shackled up in slavery. And Uncle Sam never did a damn thing for me. Sat live about the facts in my history. So now I'm sitting here mad cause I'm unemployed. But the government's glad cause they enjoy when my people are down so they can screw us around. Time to change the government now. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power from the strength that resides within. Go toe to toe with the panther and you just can't win. Self-proclaimed best. Suppress the rest. The rich get richer and the poor take less. The American dream was an American nightmare. You kept my people down and refused to fight fair. Took the Ku Klux Klan, tried to keep us out with signs of truth and state no blacks allowed. With intimidation and segregation was the wait for freedom, but now we're impatient. Blacks, the others get scared of sell out. Freedom, equality, get out, yell out. Don't you never be ashamed of what you are. It's your Panther power that makes you a star. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. My mother never let me forget my history, hoping I was set free. Things that were put on me, wanted to be more than just free. Had to know the true facts about my history. I couldn't settle for being a statistic. Couldn't survive in this capitalistic government, cause it was meant to hold us back. Using ignorance, drugs, the sneak attack in my community. They kill the unity, but when I charge them, try to claim immunity. I strike America like a case of heart disease. Panther power is running through my arteries. Try to stop me, oh boy, you be clawed to death. Cause I'll be fighting for my freedom with my dying breath. Do you remember? That's what I'm asking you. You think you're living free? Don't make me laugh at you. Open your eyes, realize you've been locked in chains. Said you wasn't civilized and stole your name. Cause some time has passed, seem to all forget. There is no liberty for you and me, we ain't free yet. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. Panther power. As real as it seems, the American dream ain't nothing but another calculated scheme to get us locked up, shot up and back in chains, to deny us of the future, rob our name, kept my history a mystery, but now I see the American dream wasn't meant for me, cause Lady Liberty's a hypocrite, she lied to me, promised me freedom, education, equality, never gave me nothing but slavery, and now look at how dangerous you made me, calling me a madman, cause I'm strong and bold, with this gun full of knowledge of the lies you told, promised me emancipation, and this new nation, all you ever gave my people was salvation, fathers of his country never cared for me, they kept my ancestors shackled up in slavery, and Uncle Sam never did a damn thing for me, sat live about the facts in my history, so now I'm sitting here mad cause I'm unemployed, but the government's glad cause they enjoy when my people are down so they can screw us around, time to change the government now, Panther power. From the rebel to you.
Wish I am in the
back. Now it's a crime to be black. So don't act surprised when it gets vandalized. Call it what it is, call it what it is, call it what it is. Murder. It's good cops, bad cops, white cops, black cops. But got to call it what it is, call it what it is, call it what it is. Murder, murder, murder. Trayvon Martin.
I see you, boy.
Ezel Ford, Michael Brown, and so many, many more.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, y'all?
Call it what it is, call it
What
it is. Murder.
He's back.
Government
That.
ain't easy. Policing ain't easy. Hard times
Mic check.
ain't easy.
Can y'all hear me?
I can hear
Pressure
you.
Okay.
ain't easy. Racism ain't easy. Fear
Hello.
ain't easy.
Hey.
Hi, Shira.
Suffering ain't easy. But call it what it is, call it what it is, call it what it is. Murder. Murder.
I can feel the blood dripping from that song.
Gun control. Mind control. Self-control. We've dug ourselves a hole. They call it what it is, call it what it
Ourselves
is,
a
call
hole.
it what it is. Murder. Gotta call it what it is, call it what it is, call it what it is. Murder. Just call it what it is, call it what it is, call it what it is.
Ghetto seasoning.
Thriller stuff about to come on.
Village building. All right. What's this?
Oh.
Man, who playlist is this?
Thought it was Thriller or something at the end. I didn't know what that was. Oh man. Do I need to get my PE? Do I need to get my dead prayers and just go ahead and do it that way? What do we need to do, man, to improve this style?
Okay, the dead prayers.
Y'all come to dance or y'all come to talk?
Gotta get us in the mood. This pregame, baby.
Hey, dog, I can't get you in the mood, dog. You gotta be in and out of it, dog. It ain't emotional. Hey, what's going on? What's going on, everybody?
What's that?
Good to see everybody. I think we got a couple more that's on their way in, but y'all know we're gonna get going. And so we're back. This is episode 8.
Back.
Episode 8.
8 months.
This is episode 8. We in a couple months we gonna top out on a year. And so episode 8. And what I like about it is when I see people, even before we post it, they talking about, looking forward to the next one. And so whatever we saying, hopefully people are using it. It's a model that what we're trying to do so that people in their communities can do what we're doing. I invited a brother here today. I need to text him. I don't see him popping up yet. But I invited a brother here today that's supposed to be on here. Let me send him a message so he can get in the conversation. But hopefully people are using some of the stuff that we're talking about.
Cuz are you in the bed or something?
Who, me?
Yeah,
y'all can't see me?
Yeah.
Oh, I might need to lift my thing up.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Uh-oh.
Y'all, I might need to lift my thing up. We'll say I'm sitting in the bed talking.
Yeah, you put us in darkness.
Let me send this brother one more reminder. Because he's doing some things that I think is lined up with what we're talking about. But hopefully people are looking at what we're talking about and looking at the things that we're doing in our areas and just trying to figure out what works best for their area. That's the main thing. Whole bunch of talking ain't gonna get you nowhere. But if we start trying to figure out what we're gonna do in our areas and then do it, that's where the difference comes in. And we're doing it like this right here because we know everybody not gonna agree on the same thing. But as long as we not lined up like Ben Carson said,
like slaves.
You heard that, man?
I heard it.
As long as we ain't thinking like that.
I didn't hear it.
As long as we ain't thinking like that, we on the same page. We don't need to link up all skin folk and kin folk. And so we don't have to link up with all skin folk, but skin folk that's walking in the same direction, even though we do it differently. And so hopefully, I think people are seeing that and people are taking what we do and customizing it for their areas, and it's giving them energy and giving them some life to get some things going in their areas. And we don't have all the answers, but I think just the dialogue is sparking a lot of stuff. So I think it's real good. I mean, Shanae, she's like the campaign manager, the campaign hype person. And she like everybody she get on that microphone for come out that thing victorious. But then what I noticed also is that even when she helped get folk elected, she hold them accountable. And that's kind of what we're talking about now is, now is not the time to let up. It's not the time to let up. Some folk, they get into politics. Everybody don't get into it. It's not for everybody, but they felt like, okay, got a little victory. But so what that means? And we don't let up because the reality is, if we don't stand up for us, it don't matter who's sitting in that seat. They're not just gonna willingly stand up for us. And so there's some things that we have to do on our parts. And we have been talking about village building today. We're gonna give out. Shira, how many shirts we gonna give out today?
I'm gonna give 3 out.
And so we're gonna give out 3 shirts. And so everybody that's watching on social media, I really need y'all to do me a favor. I need y'all to share this post. I'm so out of it. I ain't turned and looked to see what social media look like. Everybody that's on social media, I need you to share the post. So we can get this word out there. What's that?
No, just saying thumbs up, like Victor.
Oh yeah. Share this post so that everybody that you have influence over can see what's going on and become a part of this conversation. And if nobody else don't pay attention to what y'all talk about, I know Shira is gonna pay attention and gonna keep us abreast on what's being said on social media. So everybody that's on social media right now, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to share the post. But just so we know that we got some friends out there, not only do I need you to share the post, but I need you to also, let us know that it's shared. That way we know we got some teammates out there. So share the post and then let us know that it's shared. All right. And so everybody check it out. I see a few folks finally getting on, but we need some big numbers, and the big numbers gonna come from you all sharing the post. And so all of our partners that's out there that's watching on social media, go ahead and share this post so the people that's in your circle can the people that's in your circle can be a part of this conversation. And what you got to do in the chat, I need you to type your name. And then when you type your name in the chat, you're gonna be in the running for. We're giving away 3 free shirts. Y'all saw the flyer. Y'all saw the drawings. She was one of our panelists from the get got up and gone. She this is her company that's sponsoring the giveaway this month. And I'm like, sure, now I'm gonna put my name in there, and because the wheel, like, I know some of y'all were like, well, you can't, none of us can win with Shira. Well, I'm gonna put my name in there. If the wheel of names get my name, I'm getting me one of them shirts. And so put your name in the chat so we can put you on the wheel.
And we see the shirt.
What's that, Tori?
No, the shirt's on the flyer, right?
Yeah, it's on the flyer. And so put your name in the chat, and when we see your name, we're gonna put your name on the wheel. But so I'm looking forward to a wonderful, wonderful discussion. And just to give a little shout out to my cousin, you know, the tea, I didn't win it last time, but I bought me some. And so what I do in the morning, because I don't drink coffee, I just fix me a mug of hot tea, and the little mug I get stay all day long. And so you have to have your own bags and stuff. It's the stuff you scoop in there. He gives you some honey straws, and what I was told, that because I saw a review from somebody that won it and was saying how good it is. It brings up, strengthens your immune system. And so I've been taking that right there. And I don't know if it's working, but I can tell you I ain't been sick. And so it's working for me. And so I think I bought me a good long supply. And
you did.
I like it. I like it. And so that was the immunity. And so go to back one of our episodes. You can go on our post. It got all the episodes. You can go find immunity. I done read the book on financial literacy from paycheck to paycheck to financially lit. And I'm about to get me some shirts to wear around and let folk know where my mind at. And so I want to thank Shira for sponsoring this week. But the title this week is we're still on village building, but now is not the time to let up. And so that's where we at. Y'all jump on it. Now is not the time to let up. And I told you where I want, where my mind at. My mind is even for them that think they got some victories, and I like the turnout of the election, and I voted. But it ain't time to sit down now. I think we learned that with President Obama. We want to blame it all on him, but we sat back and backed off while everybody else was making their demand. We were like, okay, you go do it. And I think we learned from that right there. No, we got to hold people accountable. No matter what they look like, we have to hold them accountable. All right, let's talk. Now is not the time to let up. Village building.
Well, good evening, everybody. We got started right at 8 this time. I was gonna get some jamming on for a minute. Missed the music. I'll catch it a little later. But I think the issue now for us is to talk about how to hold those that are in power, that came to our churches, that came and shook our hands and kissed our babies and all that other stuff, even virtually, coming to our spaces and specifically looking at those county commissioners, specifically looking at those ward leaders, those people that you and only the people that live in your hood voted for, and sit down and say, hey, we haven't seen you since the election. We ain't seen you since November. What's going on? And the issue is not to ask them what's going on, not just to ask them what's going on, say, here are the things that we're interested in, and put it on their desk. We want to see this become policy. We have a question about this. We have a question about that. We have a question, when are you going to meet? Some ward leaders have a monthly meeting with their ward or section or district or whatever you want to call it. If they don't do those things, you need to ask those questions. When are you going to meet with us again and talk about and ask us what our concerns are? If you don't, if they'll do exactly what you allow and accept, they'll give you the communication you deserve by your level of staying involved. So that's where I am about letting up. It's like, well, I don't have to see those people till 4 months till my next election. If that's the relationship you have with your elected officials, then that's on you. That's your fault. You should be calling the shots. They represent you. They need to represent your voice, and they can't represent your voice if they're not listening to your voice, if you're not saying anything. So I pass it to Pastor Jackson. Go ahead. I'm gonna bring my keyboard out.
Hold on. I wanna before we get started, I see everybody dropping their name in the comments. And so y'all might not know this, but Fannie Lou and Ida B are my idols. I just need to know if I can drop my name in the comments for a shirt. I'm just saying.
I might drop mine too.
That was the first thing.
She got me already.
I'll support you, Shira. I'll go ahead and buy one.
Yeah, I want to win one, but I'll definitely buy one as well.
It sound like it's too many hats. People gonna be in the hat for me to win one. I mean, you know, my chances are getting very slim, so I'll just buy one.
But on that note, I am a bit distracted. As Pastor Ross stated, well, if you all might know, but in Gainesville tonight is election night. And so the campaign that I did run, that actual candidate did win. Everybody said that she couldn't, because the incumbent was backed by the political machine. Additionally, we entered the race late, and that was by design. It was so that they could not put anyone else in order to split the votes. And I want to be clear, it directly aligns with what we're talking about. Because one of the things that I'm always preaching and fussing about is that political engagement is a part of the process. When we look at village building, when we look at building up our communities, and we understand that not only is it a social construct, but it is a political construct, because we need power. And the only way to get power is politically, whether we like it or not. Gainesville, I've talked about very clearly, and I speak for that one because I know the most, is we were that city. So when we talk about how Black people need to get together and do things together, how Black people need to build wealth, we were a city that did that. And what happened is our wealth was taken. All of the things that we owned were taken, and they were taken, one, by force, but then also because we didn't have any power and we didn't understand the importance of power. Even when they took many of the things and pushed us to one side of town, what we did is we were okay with that. We had a neighborhood that was fully functioning, from the movie theater to the doctor's offices to the grocery stores to everything. And what happened is we were so busy doing us, we weren't paying attention to the people in power, and they took that too. And so when we look at village building as well, I fully agree that we should hold people accountable, but I always also talk about keeping the same energy. And what I realized and what I saw is the incumbent was actually the incumbent was a Black woman that was beat by another Black woman. And the first thing that Black people did is say, oh, a Black woman's entering the race against another Black woman. We don't ask questions like that when it's two white men. We don't ask questions like that when it's two white women. Additionally, another thing that happened is it's 2 days before an election. She put her hat in the ring January the 29th. Why is it 2 days before the election? Now we have more of us that come to the table and say stuff like, well, what is she going to do? We've had so many other people that have given false promises, so many people that did that. Number one, that question is a valid question. But number two, as I've clearly stated to that particular person, what she has done to even be in this hat has been clearly conveyed in multiple forms. What I need us to understand when we're village building, that although we see problems, we have to get to a point where we're deliberate about the information that we consume. And we also got to get deliberate about solutions. And one of the things that we saw just in this last few weeks is that the person whose campaign I ran, she was so busy meeting people where they are. And I'm that person, but I also believe there's accountability on both sides. And so our win was a hard fought battle because she was so busy meeting people where they were, that many of the things that they want to do. We had many people that have aligned herself with the campaign, but they didn't do any damn work. Their work was to sit on live and talk about this and that. But the real work is making phone calls. The real work is sending text messages. The real work is knocking on doors. And that's actually village building. We should be doing that outside of actual elections. And what's happening is that's the part that we're missing. We're missing the connection in village building. And the connection always is and has to be people. And so that's my 2 cents as we talk about, and you know what it is. We hold those in power accountable, but we also got to hold us accountable for making the people in power accountable. Even today, we have one commissioner that has been fighting a war by herself with 6 other people on the dais. And the number of people that have called me to ask me who to vote for in her race is extremely disheartening, because we are putting that information for that. We are giving them the information and feeding them the information, and they're not engaging because we're distracted with other things. And that's extremely scary, because even the incumbent that lost, I can't blame her for aligning herself with people that she felt like would get her the win, because we, even when it's handed to us, still refuse to engage and come to the table.
Got you. I got you. And tell me this right here. Even though it's extremely critical that we are fully engaged in the political piece, is it possible to also lift ourselves in other arenas without the political piece when we're talking about village building? And I bring this up. The guy that I invited tonight, I met, it was my fault. I said Tuesday, March the 17th. And so it's the 16th. So me and him talking right now, and he want to come another time, but I still want to live. And so we're going to bring him, but I still want to lift him up. It's a guy that has a Facebook page in Gainesville that I use to get all of my vendors. I don't know the last time I looked, but I think it's probably 15 or 20,000 people that's the members, but it's called Gainesville Word of Mouth. And on that page, I mean, you can literally get everything you need. You need a plumber, you need this, you need that, you got a point of view you want to make, whatever it is, it's conversation, but nobody else controls it. You know, I mean, the brother and his crew, they control it, but they keep it, you know, they keep it to where we can deal with our stuff, and more than anything, to lift our people up. And so when I look at what this brother, and this is, from all I can see, is like a regular brother. This ain't somebody that came down, you know, with a collar on, or came down with, you know, all these degrees, or came down. He seemed like just a regular brother that wanted to create a platform, and I wanted him to share with us about how that came about. But I see Chanel on there pretty often. And so she probably knows about how it started and stuff like that. But I think that even something like that is amazing if communities can get a connection. It's private. You got to be allowed in. And I've seen them, even one time I remember I asked for a roofer or something like that, and somebody gave me a white business. And that thing, actually my daughter came up and like, no, these supposed to be black referrals, black businesses. And they kind of went forward, and the person kind of backed off and said, okay, I understand. But this is literally, you know, for us, by us, to where we can literally find everything that we need. And so I agree that the political game is extremely important. And but I also think that it's extremely important that we learn how this money, this spending that we got, I mean, because we're not broke people, this spending that we spend, and we can figure out how to put that into our people to begin to build wealth. You know, I think it's amazing what this young guy did. I don't know the details. Chanel, you know the details on how that came to be and how it grew so big?
But I would just say briefly, I would love for him to actually come and give additional information. It was him and a few other people. So in Gainesville, we have a traditional group called Gainesville Word of Mouth. And when I tell you it's the worst of the worst, we were not surprised by Trump supporters because they live in Gainesville. And these are people that spew, I don't care what it is that you go into word of mouth is with, I don't care how positive it is, they will find a way to make it extremely nasty. And people are extremely racist. The moderators are, and I'm not throwing that word around, it is extremely blatant. And so in response to that, we realized, and the people who actually created this group, we don't have to keep being a part of this group in order to be able to solicit business, or to be a part of this group in order to find a quick way to connect with others. And so in response to that, they created the Gainesville Word of Mouth, and it's the Black edition. I don't even think when they set out that they knew it would grow more than 11,000 strong, but that's what it has done. And even now, they are now teaching people the most effective way to use it, that when they're looking for a particular service, how to search within the group to find the things. They're trying now to coordinate times in order to be able to build up and uplift Black businesses, because often we always come with the negative. So having that opportunity to be very proactive and positive, and also the opportunity to be able to give constructive feedback or criticisms when it's not anything going on, so that people can be a great deal more receptive. Me being a person who utilizes the group, I help village build in that way. So things that are going on in the community and information they typically would not have access to, I make sure that I apply it and put it into that particular group. People now, they're moving forward with businesses, moving forward with going back to school. They now have a safe space to ask other people that look like them, well, what about this? Well, have you heard about that? Well, how do I connect with this? And so it's extremely positive. Sometimes there's some funny and fun posts that are in there, but it's a safe space. So, I mean, even too, they have fully evolved. They believe in banter and not necessarily agreeing, but let's be respectful and try to get to a point where we really are trying to learn. And that's what's exciting about the group.
Sinead, let me ask you a question. Was he like a community leader before him and his people did this, or just a regular person trying to offer a space that was fill a void?
Just a regular person that was trying to offer a space that was a void, but showing just how simple this building can be. And they didn't try that, but what he did shows just how simple village building can be.
That's amazing. And so when I look at that model, and all I got to do is go on there and say, this is what I need, or go look at the suggestion that's been made, and I can go and find these vendors. I mean, how more can you build a community than, I mean, when I think about, y'all remember the fella, you remember Wildin' Out? The guy, he was like a funny kind of rapper.
Nick Cannon.
Yeah, Nick Cannon. Mm-hmm. All right, so you remember he had a real conversation with a real brother, but he said something real true, and the Jewish community canceled it. Y'all remember that? Yeah. And so he literally came out begging. I mean, he turned from what he portrayed, and they bent him over. They bent him over. Yeah. And because he made a lot of money. But when I think about it, how is it that the Jewish community can be offended and cut you off just like that? And there's nothing that you can do about it.
Can I speak on it?
Yeah, please. And I think and when I say, I'm talking that Jew, not the Hebrew.
I know.
Yeah. And so when I think about it, it's this togetherness that we gonna deal with this thing, and we're gonna be together. And so all of their resources, they say we'll snatch our resources. And in my mind, I'm thinking that with the money, because we are not broke people. Look at how much we spend. We're just giving it away. We're not bringing it we're not putting it in one another. We're not investing it in one another. If there's some kind of way, we know we're gonna have some coons that just can't, but that's on coons only like, I mean, the deep ones only like 8-9%. We got 90% that are really open to listening. You got to penetrate their mind. If there was some kind of way we can get something like this going all over, and I'm sure it probably is, and that we just go get our own when he's asking to be accepted. If you don't want to give me an award on this award show, we'll support our own award show. We won't go to your. If there's a way we can put all our money towards our stuff, the same power that other folk have that can counsel our supposedly strong people and send them crawling for acceptance, I think we can wield that same kind of power. And so it baffles me, but I'm gonna let the real Hebrew talk now.
Well, as far as Nick Cannon go, you know, that was really just something. He a sucker for doing that, you know, and the Jewish community is using the same thing that's in the scriptures that we read, our people read on Sundays. It tells them that they can keep their money to themselves and they can charge interest to the heathens. They own all of the banking systems, the central banking system throughout the entire earth. And the only countries that don't agree with those central banking systems or have their own are the countries that are at war with America and America's allies. Places like Iran, China, Russia, you know, they got their own stuff and they don't agree with the central banking system. So the Jewish community is doing exactly what the scriptures are saying, which is what we were supposed to do. And that's why, you know, most of our people are on the bottom according to the curses that were placed on our people, you know. For those that actually read the scriptures, that's where in the end the real Jews would be, the real Hebrews would be on the bottom, not on the top. The synagogue of Satan would be on the top, you know. But to get back to the point, they're using those economics straight from the scriptures. They give to themselves. They'll let a stranger live in their house. They'll bring them up if they're poor. You know, if they're Jewish, if they're ish, then they'll help them out. But if there's somebody else or of another nation, then you're called what's called goyim, or a stranger or a Gentile, and they will charge you interest. They'll give you the money if you apply for it. But that's where all this banking stuff come from. The loan places, all that stuff come from the Jewish community. You know, back in the 1800s, early 1800s, when they created the banking system and there was no more gold, they took the gold out and started putting everyone under a credit system. They did that at Jekyll Island right here off the coast of Georgia. So when they started that, hey, that's where we at right now. It's a slave system, not only for the original Hebrews, you know, who actually live in the ghetto. Ghetto actually means the place where the Jews reside. You can look it up. So we live in the actual ghetto. We are the ones on the bottom. We need to start actually using what's in the word and start doing that. We have our own economics, just like you say. We got the power to actually do it. Look at our spending. We spend more money in the United States than anybody else, probably in the world. Everybody else in the world comes from different places and come here and put stores in our communities, or they make products to sell to us. Africans come here and go to the flea markets and open up a store and they sell you all kind of cheap stuff. The Chinese people come here, they open up these cat, rat, and dog restaurants to sell you that. You know what I'm saying? The Arabs sell you cheap gas. Everybody comes to the United States to sell to the actual people on the bottom, and we buy it. We spend more money than anybody else, but yet they tell us that we're only 12 or 13% of the population. If we're only 12, 13% of the population, what they need us for to bring them up? That's because we number the sands of the sea, like the scripture.
Oh, getting the grub on?
It's more than that. It's more. Shanae E.
My bad, Thor. Go ahead.
You're all right. It's more of us than what they say, because you can tell by our spending. All right. So that's basically what I wanted to say. You know, the guy's a sucker for doing that. If you're gonna say something like that, stand on what you say, especially if you believe it. I mean, he wears turbans and mitres and stuff like that. And then he turns around and then goes back to the Jewish, the fake Jews, and tries to and lets them tell him who he is.
Yeah.
How ironic.
Okay, let me chime in right quick. In terms of answering your question about why we don't move like everybody else, our experience is different than everybody else's.
Okay.
The other issue that I have too is we don't have a socialization process. Meaning, when you talk about the Jews, by the time they're 12, 13, they go through a bar mitzvah process, which means they learn about money, they learn how to interact with each other, and they learn how to have a sense of loyalty. Most Black folks that I know at 13, they're playing video games, they're ripping and running. So you have a different dynamic in terms of your upbringing, in terms of your cultural background. If we could move towards a place where we have more institutional control in terms of the socialization process, I think it would help. You know, during slavery, we had something called meritorious manumission, which simply meant that, you know, by telling on somebody or by doing something for master or doing this, I could win my freedom or I could, you know, have certain privileges. We have Black folks that still operate up under meritorious manumission, which means simply this. When you see folks in public talking about Colin Kaepernick, they're operating on meritorious manumission. When you see folks out here cooning, they're operating based on a merit system that's going to reward them for being anti-Black, whether that's policy, whether that's rhetoric, whether it's how they act, so forth and so on. And in terms of the village, what I would like to see us do too is be a little bit more descriptive and specific in terms of what that village looks like. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a village in which we control the economics and the politics in that area? Are we talking about institutional control? Are we talking about a bank system? What are we talking about when we're talking about a village? I don't have a problem with voting at all. I think it is a part of the process. However, sometimes with Black folks, I think we make that the end all instead of just something to put into the liberation toolbox. So we have a toolbox of liberation and voting just happens to be a part of it. It is not the end all be all. So when we talk about voting, I just want to be clear. If we are not grooming the people who are representing us, if we're not financing their campaign, and if we're not finally holding them accountable, they're not going to do anything for you. I don't care what their color is. So I want to be completely clear and transparent when I talk about that in terms of the voting process. I think we need to be more educated about that. But in terms of how we move, Black folks, I would make the argument, hate ourselves more than anybody else, because you cannot explain all of the slave revolts that were thwarted by Black folks. You cannot explain all of the Black organizations that were infested with agents. You can't explain that other than the fact that Black folks have no accountability because we don't hold each other accountable either. Meaning, if I know that you're trying to be a saboteur, there needs to be something that I do as a deterrent to keep you from doing that again. Let me give you an example. Let's use Kanye West as an example, right? So he got up there talking about slavery was a choice. You know, Steinfeld is a Jewish comedian. Jews would never let him get up there and articulate anything from a political standpoint, let alone talk out the side of your face in terms of what took place with the Holocaust. Black folks are okay with that. In fact, we even do comedies talking about slavery. So we have to reevaluate what is funny. We have to reevaluate and recalibrate what our priorities are before we can even move to that space. So until we, develop some institutions that socialize us and tell us that I love my mother, I love my sister, I love my community, I'm picking up my trash, and have some accountability systems that are embedded within that, you're always going to come back to the same conversation about why we don't do this, why we don't do that.
That's right.
Some good heavenly words you just shared with us. I do think I agree with you that we don't move the way other people move because we have had a different traumatic experience. However, I believe if you had a 40-year-old cousin, son who continued to say that they were unsuccessful in their lives because of the type of childhood they had, you would tell them, yes, you had a hard time, but it's time for you to be a grown man. It's time for you to put away those things and go ahead and stop letting it affect your future. So I think as a people, we have experienced a lot, but I believe it's time for us to put in place those things that will help us move forward. And as we talk about Black businesses, I think it is important for us to establish some sort of social communal type of ownership over business or over the things that we need, because oftentimes what happens is something that happened this previous summer in New Orleans, where we had a Black man who owned a sanitation company, and he was paying the hoppers on the garbage trucks like $9 an hour. And during COVID, and when they went on strike, he hired Black men from a halfway house and paid them $2-3 an hour. And wow. A lot of times, you know, since we've been in this socialization, since we've been in this society, many of us aspire to do and be as successful and or as ruthless as the cracker done been. And so I would love to see you know, churches come together and say, we're going to start a parent co-op, and every parent is going to work this co-op for children, for childcare once or twice a month, so that you don't have to pay for childcare, or so that your childcare expenses will be diminished tremendously. And then we can start doing parenting classes. We can, if we get back to our roots, which was communal living, a village, we all take care of each other. All the children belong to everybody. All the things that we need, we provide for each other. We'll no longer be looking for, we'll no longer be trying to ask somebody who has no intention on treating us right and giving us what we deserve. We can start trying to do those things for ourselves.
So you know who talks about doing those things, interestingly enough, and I want us to look at programming, Hebrew Israelites. You know who talks about doing those things? People in the Muslim community. You know who talks about doing just that? People that talk about Black nationalism. And the reason that I want to point that out is because when you hear things like Hebrew Israelite or Muslim community, many of us have a knee-jerk reaction. And that's by programming. We've been programmed to believe because they're so different, or the things that they say are so radical, that we're fully opposed to that, not realizing that what we need to be looking at is our religious teachings. So part of the reason that we got away from this communal living is literally because of improper and incorrect religious teachings. And that's part of the problem. So in the 60s, and in many churches, you saw churches just doing just that. I tell people all the time, my church is non-denominational. My pastor is white. Everything that you named happens at my one church. All the way up to, we have Southern University sits on our church campus, because my pastor believes that education also is a mission. We have our own schools. Even no matter what you attend as it pertains to church, there's always childcare. Our small groups are always about going and doing just that, building up our particular community. We believe now that service is first. But how many, and the reason that I utilize the church, I know people feel like I'm picking on that, because it is the one organized body where we have the most power that we don't utilize properly. What do you see when you go to many churches? I can tell you what I see. Many of them, it is that we are not even pouring into the church properly because people are so busy trying to be in the good graces of the pastor. Many in the same thing, not even just churches, politically, it's the same thing that happens. What happens is, for so many of us that don't have anything, we start to form allegiances and we start to revere people who have perceived power. And we're so busy trying to be close to the people with perceived power, we don't realize that their power is not really that if it's not uplifting our most vulnerable people. And that's where we got that particular shift. So when you look at the Southern Leadership Conference, when you look at the NAACP, when you look at all these organizations that helped us to attain power and helped us to move forward, look at how they were at inception and look at how they are now. And somewhere along the lines, we got so selfish with power, and us and me and mine, that we didn't realize that our power and our wealth is only as good as the community around us.
So, Shanae, I want to challenge you on something. So I always hear people say the churches. And it makes me feel good that people have such high expectation of the churches. And I don't get when people say the church, and as if Black churches ain't doing that, and it means nothing to me. That's like telling me I ain't doing nothing when you there's no way in the world you could tell me I'm not doing something. So when people say Black church,
so the issue is you're the exception.
So
there's
what I'm saying, Yeah. So I'm happy that people have such high expectations of the church. And I think when you have a high expectation of it, you ought to be a part of producing. And so we talk about groups that talk. You said they're talking these things. And so I'm not coming against any groups, but so like say I was riding down 8th Avenue the other day, dude standing in the corner selling standing on the street selling a found a car. Gave him $10, got found a car. Okay, that's good. Okay, but come on now, these are organizations too. Why aren't everybody else held to the fire to go? Because I hear a lot of talking, but I don't see a lot of doing in any of those groups. And so I think that when we put all of our focus on church and say that the church is not doing it, when I look around, I don't just see the church. I think we as a community, I was Black before I was a Christian. And so I think we as a community if we're gonna expect the church to do everything, everybody need to go and help the church become a resource that has the power to do it and then be a part of it. But if not, we gotta hold everybody accountable, and that's not to let the church off. But I think some people escape accountability because we always point the finger at the church and don't give credit to the church, the Black church. I ain't talking about the Black church that deals with our issues. We don't give credit to the Black church that does the work.
So now let me interject a few things. Number one, in every community that I've ever seen the Nation of Islam, their people are a thriving community. That's number one. Oftentimes, it is us that are turned off to the Nation of Islam being able to come in particular places. And we do that because we talk about the radical teachings. So now I'm going to go back to the church. And I'm going to talk about the church in Alachua County. And the reason I'm going to talk about the church in Alachua County, because I spent 35 years of my 41 years in life in Alachua County. You are the exception to the rule. I knew the pastor that was at your church before you did. We have a pastors association in Alachua County, Florida. Much of the work that we've tried to get done, or even to where people have tried to plug into the pastors association, we've been unable to. I've been trying to get a meeting with the pastors association for almost 4 years. That's number one. Number two, we've gone to pastors individually. And y'all know me, typically I'm gonna call names, but they know who I am. And when we've talked about doing things in the community, they have stated they just need people to show up in their pews and they need people to attend church. And so the reason that there's such a high expectation of the church is not because we don't give church help, because there's many of us that give church help, that do great works in the church. In addition to that, what I see in Alachua County, Florida, is many of the church folk, even when you got pastors that want to do the will of the people, that don't because of the elders in the church who are so focused on piety that they're not focused on the vulnerable community. So even as we come to tables, because as we pertain to doing the work, all of the work that we've done in Alachua County, whenever it's time to call in, whatever it's time for people to show up, you know, I'm not people to organize people. And the people that show up and speak against our people in our community is the church folk that look like us. So I'm not even just holding the pastors at particular churches that are accountable. Even too, if you ever notice, whenever there's a post even about church hurt, the number of people that are working within these communities that won't even engage in the church because of the scars that the church actually has left. For you literally, when I talk about a pastor who we need to go to in order to get things done, I always state to go to you, even with COVID vaccinations. So last week, we were able to get 1,300 people vaccinated. The only reason people knew that I was even a part of it, because there's a lot of stuff I do people don't know, is because I was tagged in it. But even all of the stuff that was going on amongst the particular pastors at the table, there's many people in this community that even the good works that they do it to exalt them and not the community. And the issue is not even just with pastors, but it's in the people in churches that keep helping exalt pastors instead of helping them to realize that we all are a people, and pastors lead by service. That's the pastor that you are. That's the one that I've seen you to do. Anything that I've seen you, even in the short time you've even known about, there's many things behind the scenes that I'm aware of that you're doing. You don't even know that I know that you're aware of. Even when you're getting information, because often I'm the person that got to come get the information from. And so what I want us to understand, even in the communities, when you ride down 8th Avenue, there's a fully engaged community right there with Greater Duval. The number of people that refuse to work with that fully engaged community will blow your mind. So what we've decided to do, that's how we came up with the Community Development Corporation. That's how we came up with the idea of community trust. Because what we realized is even in communities where people were fully engaged, everybody's so busy trying to make a name for themselves, they're not even willing to work with the people that's already paved the way and want to give them all of the knowledge. They won't even work with the people that will show them how to get the money because they're so busy being in competition. And that's a lot of pastors in Alachua County. So I'm not going to say it's everywhere, but I can speak very clearly for Alachua County.
And Shanae, let me just say this. I definitely understand what you're talking about. One of the first events I organized in my hometown was a back to school drive where I got people to donate, school supplies. I went to, a church and I asked them, would they be willing to donate some school supplies? I was going to give them credit because everybody who donated, I gave them credit. And they told me that they weren't going to do it because they weren't spearheading it. They weren't the organizers of it. And so I have seen where, people, it seems as though they prefer the credit. Another thing is that I do believe that, the churches do make a lot of money off of, for example, a lot of churches with childcare. They have, daycares and all those things, and they make really good money off of that. And the other thing is that, I was a minister in the church for a while, and, people would come and ask for prayer. And one of the things that just weighed heavily on me was that they would ask for prayer for things that had practical solutions to them, but that I didn't see being provided for. And I just, not to just talk about churches, but in general, I think a gathering place of Black people where we are, uplifting each other and servicing one another. I just, wish we could do that in a more communal way so that, we can begin to thrive and have some nationhood and be able to uplift ourselves economically.
I think one of the things that we need to stop doing
Anthony
said. I
Anthony
think
said.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. What Anthony said is that sometimes we act like we hate ourselves. And so my question is, if you attach to something that should be doing something that ain't doing nothing, and you still feeding that with your resources, why are you blaming the thing? You need to blame yourself. If you still feeding that thing and making that thing strong and that thing is not producing for the community like it should be, is it the thing that's wrong or is it you that's wrong for feeding that?
Let me respond real quick. One of the things that I want to say in your defense, Pastor Rawls, is it's not just the clergy. It's folks in these nonprofits, there's folks across the board who have the I'm the smartest person in the room syndrome. I got to get mine. You must follow me. You have that mentality. Now, in terms of the Nation of Islam, there's some things, man, that I like about them. There's some things that I'm very highly critical of. For one thing, we out here in a climate in which cops are killing folks the whole nine. They had the FOI, but yet and still they have not been engaged. Also, they continue
What's the FOI?
Fruits of Islam.
Okay.
Fruits of Islam. Not only that, but they continue to talk about certain folks, man, who were prominent leaders within the organization. Now, every organization is not perfect, but when I talk about the church, I'm talking about the church in totality, meaning the Muslims, the Christians, Hebrews, the whole nine. There's an accountability that everybody needs to have in terms of what they're doing. If we all were doing something, our community as a whole would be better. It's not just a separate entity. The other thing that I want to say too, the other thing I want to say too is we do have HBCUs. We do have schools that we can use and function as that type of socialization process that you can use. It doesn't have to be in a box from just an academia type of thought process or scholastic process. You could train folks, man, in terms of HVAC. You could train folks in terms of having knowledge of your history, so forth and so on. We do have institutions, and church is one of them. We do have institutions in which we can empower those institutions, put a curriculum in place, and use that as a form to change our thought process as well as change the narrative in the community. My issue is, and I'm gonna get on the bourgeoisie, my issue is at some of these HBCUs, I can go in a PWI and talk Black history before I can go in an HBCU and talk Black history. Dr. Claude Anderson said some of his books, he can't even get into the HBCU. Now that's a problem. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, is it And systemic racism has a lot to do with it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to let that off the hook by any means. But there are some things we need to learn in terms of housekeeping and house cleaning in order for us to move to the next level. We got a lot of folks, man, who are what I call the black overclass or the bourgeoisie that are keeping us from moving forward in some of the things that we already have established. We're going to have to address that internally. Malcolm X once said this one time. He said, are you going to let white people in your organization? His response was, black folks have to learn how to deal with each other before I let anybody else come into my space and come into this organization. Here we are in 2021. We've got to learn how to do that first and have some accountability systems and processes in place. Therefore, once we get that established, then we can move forward. And so I'm charging the HBCU, I'm charging these religious institutions, things that we control. Things that we can do right now. I'm not talking about nothing that's crazy, but in terms of a solution-based response, we need to get more of a control on that so we can start teaching our folks, man, and we can create that village that we're on here talking about right now.
Hey, let's have a quick commercial break, then we're gonna go to Tori. We're giving away some free t-shirts made by Wizdom Arts. Our own Shira Phillip is the owner of Wizdom Arts. Each week, each month, on each episode, we have a company that gives away some free product, and we put that front company out there. The website is in the description box on the post to this feed, this live feed. But we're going to go to the wheel of names. I asked everyone that wanted to be placed on the wheel of names to put your name, to type your name in the chat box. And Shira is feeding those to me to put them on the wheel of names. After we give away this one shirt, you'll still have an opportunity to win another shirt. But right now, we're going to go and spin. All right. These are the names that are on the wheel of names. And we are ready to go.
Oh, there we go.
Nicole Sparrow from St. Augustine, Florida is the winner. Good job, Nicole. Nicole, this is what I need you to do. We need you to end the message, the private message on this right here. Send us your name, mailing address, and phone number, and I'll give that to Shira, and we'll get that to you. Again, we want to thank Nicole for entering. If you want to enter your name to be put on the wheel of names for the next drawing of the free shirt from Wizdom Arts, just type it in the chat bar and we'll add it there. Tori, you were about to come in when I cut you off.
Yeah. Well, make sure they put their t-shirt size Shira put on there.
Oh yeah. Y'all heard that.
So what I was gonna say is, we continue to go around and we point the finger, which is good for open rebuke. Of course, the religious institutions, we got other private institutions that they gather together as themselves. They have their own schools, they have their own way of lives, and they don't let outsiders in. But we need to stop looking at each other as outsiders. We are together collectively the outsiders, because when I've said this on a couple other shows, the enemies that live in these United States, that feed off of us, that suck off of us, they don't agree. They have Iranians, Iraqis, Chinese, they got all these other people that are supposedly their enemies living in the United States, thriving and having businesses and things like that. They don't agree religiously, they don't agree, but what they do agree on is money and an economic system and keeping their foot on somebody to keep paying them. And we are the people that they keep their foot on. So what we need to do collectively is bring that shield down. Each religious institution, these churches, these mosques, these private institutions, Black institutions, these HBCUs need to bring that shield down to work together, because we can topple anything that anyone else has. You said it earlier. We spend more money than anybody. We spend more money on junk most of the time, but we spend more money more than anybody. If you look at the commercials on TV, you listen to the commercials on the radio, you see all of the media posts, most of this stuff is geared toward us, Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. It's geared toward us, the people that are on the bottom. It's not geared toward anybody else. All these other people, they could care less. They're taking most of our ideas and turning it into something that they can put out for us to buy. I've said it many times. If we started taking and getting a plot of land, put a warehouse on the land, put our creative people in these warehouses and let them do what they do to create stuff, just like Sherry doing these t-shirts, or anybody else that's doing anything, mechanical engineers, scientists to make vaccines or whatever. We put our creative people in a warehouse. They have to start coming to us. Our money will now start circulating, and it's going into their neighborhoods, and they're spending money with us. What's going on now is we're spending money and putting it into their neighborhoods. It's coming out of our neighborhoods and going into their neighborhoods. It needs to be doing the opposite.
So
we have to do some unlearning. We have to do some unlearning. And that's where we are now. We have to unlearn that my brother is my competition. And if I don't beat him to it to get that money, then he's going to beat me to that money. And we have to unlearn that and accept the fact that there's enough money for all of us if we work together. We have to unlearn, and that's one of the problems that we have right now. With when you tapped onto that churches thing. Churches, a lot of churches and organizations see, I have to be the biggest church on the block. I have to have this. If my name's going to be on it at the program, I'm going to have to be the preacher or give the biggest whatever. So there's a lot of unlearning. And its roots are in our enslavement. We have to get out of that mentality that I have to be on top, or somebody that my sister or somebody related to me have to be on top, and I help them, but I'm not going to help anybody else. If you're not blood, you're not family. We have to unlearn that. We have to unlearn that. And that happens when we start working and asking our kids now that are in school to, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are your things? What are your goals? Okay, what are your friends trying to do? All y'all can't be attorneys. One of y'all be an attorney, one of you be a doctor, one of you be an engineer and build everybody else. One of you be the tax person. Those things that's the way that we have to start looking at it, and starting with the generation that's those high school kids we got now, and say, what are you going to do? Can you do it here? There used to be mom and pop shops that, Miss Jessie used to have her what was it, a dry cleaners or something like that. And this other one, Miss Jackson had her barbecue place, and then their kids just stayed in that line of business. That's not really happening now for us, but we need to look back at that until we can start finding what business are you going to set up that's going to create a legacy for your family and your community, and start asking those questions and start charging these kids that we're bringing up. It's probably too old for some. The days already passed for some of those. They're going to see me, and mine, me, myself, and I. They can't do that. But this next generation, if we can put in them, when you come back after you graduate and you come here, I'm going to let you borrow this land here. I'm going to work with you on this property here to have this thing here, and you can set up. If we can start doing that, looking at it that way, we can start building that community up with some people that's not concerned about their bank account, but about building up the wealth of our people as a collective. So that's something that we got to talk about. But when can we sit down and do that? We need to figure out how to do that.
I think we need to recenter the conversation. So first, Anthony made a very good point about, he calls them the bourgeoisie. I like how you say that. I don't say that. I call them uppity Negroes. And the reason, and I use that terminology, and so I will speak plainly. The reason that they are a part of the issue is because they don't realize it's a slave mentality to subscribe to people need to speak a certain way or look a certain way or dress a certain way. And they don't realize that we had to do those particular things in order to be passing, in order to be acceptable to others. I always talk about respectability. And the reason I don't subscribe to it, because to me, respectability is us, the oppressed population or the most vulnerable, trying to appeal to the moral sensibilities of the people in power. They don't have morals. That's the reason that they robbed, stole, killed, raped, and took everything else. And so that is one of those things we have to unlearn. Also, I want us to be clear. We always have a conversation. Wealth building in our community is built different than just wealth building. And what I mean by that is, one of the things I never subscribed to, I never wanted my children to be the best of anything. The best I wanted them to be was people of character. So it didn't matter if they were and mind you, I got two of them like super bright. Like I call my oldest son Boy Wonder. He got too much sense. So, but for me, it never was about them knowing more than somebody else or having somebody more than somebody else. It was always about being good people. And the reason with character is always first, because character is what's necessary to keep your ego out of the way. And so what happens is, if we don't make that first, and we got to be the best scientist or the best mathematician or the best this, number one, we're subscribing to white people stuff, because even in school's not about who's the smartest. It's about who can learn their particular way. And we got to understand that. Typically, people that are good with their hands are not good with science. Typically, people good with English are not good with math. These are like literally scientific things, but that we don't realize. And so what happens is, we're so busy highlighting when people excel in those particular ways that their character is something that falls to the wayside and it becomes second. So then we start to look at our character and giving of ourselves to give to other people as a weakness, when actually that's our strength. And that's how you have to realize to build communities. Because it's a many a day, I want to cuss some people out, like for real. Y'all think I do. Many of the days I want to tell people to step off and leave me the hell alone. A lot of people don't realize just how strategic I am when it comes to things and tables that I don't back away from, because my ego is not in the way. When we need to talk about wealth, wealth is only important because of power, not to have. We all have gotten so focused on that we are forgetting the reason for the wealth building. And the reason for wealth building is because then we have power to say, stop brutalizing our people in healthcare. Then we have power to say, stop brutalizing our kids in school. Then we have power to say, stop brutalizing our kids when it comes to police brutality. And then we always have the wealth conversation, but we forget why wealth is actually so important. And even too, like I was having a conversation with someone, because Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, she got $1 billion from their divorce settlement. She donated like 420 something million. And everybody was like, how could you do that? She still got 400 and something million left. And the number of us who could not fathom giving away 423 million, even though you still got 400 and something, like 460 million. Because in our minds, that's the way that we cure things. That's the way that we've arrived. But we've yet to realize, think about all the rich people that we know that have died from suicide and drug overdoses, letting us understand that even with all the money, the power, and the wealth, it still didn't give them the fulfillment that they needed individually, and it still doesn't fulfill our particular communities. Even with our Black people that have accumulated wealth and they got money, some of them got enough to go heal a whole community and fix everything in that particular community. But because we're not looking at wealth building in that way, and we're looking at wealth building the white man's way, that's one of our particular hindrances. And it's why we have the bourgeoisie class that looks down upon people. And I'm gonna tell you, the number of people now that approach me because they see things that are accomplished, it's a great deal of many of them that when I showed up in rooms, they fully ignored me because I sat in the room quiet. They didn't understand how I could benefit from them. And we got to get out of that. The experts in all of this are not even us. They are the people that are still being directly impacted right now. They are the people that are struggling with suicidal thoughts. They're the people that are struggling with housing. They're the people that are struggling with even advocating for their kids. And that's the part. We got a lot of answers, but our reason that I know so much is from the people that people are still not talking to and not amplifying their voices. It's still the people that we're speaking for.
Yeah, I just want to say I slipped the E. Franklin Frazier's book, The Black Bourgeoisie, for the ones who are looking. For somebody who wants to get that book, it goes into detail about, what their role is and how they are complicit with maintaining the status quo. A book that was written in the 50s too, that Malcolm X talked about. That's where I learned from it. So for those who want to get the book, it is some information out there. He's a sociologist. E. Franklin Frazier is called The Black Bourgeoisie in terms of book and good reading.
So Anthony Brown, you mentioned about this training and preparation. So you talked about the Jewish community and I guess bar mitzvah and the stuff like that.
Right.
Is there a way? I mean, because when you mentioned that, the first thing I thought about also was the Black bourgeoisie and the training, the preparation things that they do. When they become adults, they present the children in these cotillions and they prepare.
Jack and Jill, all that.
Is there a way that you can utilize some of their strengths, bring it into the whole to accomplish what we're trying to do as a whole?
I do. A movie just came out called The Judas and the Black Messiah, and in that movie, you can see Fred Hampton in the building, feeding the kids, telling the kids that they are proud, so forth and so on. We have the mechanisms already in place. We have food trucks, we have folks, man, who are spending money. So to answer your question, we can do some of those things. I think we all are smart enough to put together a curriculum. Kids learn better when they are fed. They learn better when people hold them accountable and really reach out to them and follow up with them. And so what I'm saying, though, is let me go ahead and say this right now. I invited somebody on who is a graduate of Edward Waters College. It is an HBCU here in Jacksonville, Florida. It has a lot of potential. However, it is in the middle of the hood. And let me just say this for the record. I want to see that college. I want to see that university get better. But the people, man, who are in charge are making it extremely difficult. And one of the things that I want to do is there is a school behind it. We can use that school for not only feeding the kids, but also a training program that teaches them HVAC skills. Everybody's not going to go to school to get an education. And I think we need to do a better job as Black folks as talking about the importance of the carpenter, just as well as we talk about the person that has the PhD. We can use that facility, and I'm talking personally from personal experience. We use it as a vaccine center, but we can use that facility, man, to not only educate kids, feed kids, use some of these resources that we have. And when people see you doing something and there's a level of sincerity to it, it's almost like Alabama here. People jump on the bandwagon. So to answer your question in terms of solution-based, and I wanted to be solution-based on this conversation as well as talking about the issues, is we have centers, but what we need to do as people, man, who want to see things get better, we want as a collective and the masses of people say, hey, look, we have these facilities. Let's take these facilities and let's use them for the greater good of the community. What good is an HBCU in the hood if Black folks around here acting bougie, talking about it's just an economic or it's just a academic center? We don't need academic center. These folks, man, are coming out of jail. These folks got all kinds of issues. They're not going to get a job from a traditional sense. We've got to be able to think outside the box. So what I'm saying is take that HBCU in Jacksonville, Florida, which is the oldest private HBCU in Jacksonville, Florida. Just use that as a template. And once we establish that template, everybody can use that template in their particular community, in their particular area that they live in. And that is the answer. We have to see people doing the work. Once we see people doing the work, folks will invest in it. They will come on board and they will say, you know what? I want to join what they got going on because I know their intentions are really pure.
Shira wants to say something. We're going to let Shira say something, and then we're going to take a commercial break to give away another shirt.
One of the things we're talking about, like with the Black bourgeoisie, is classism. And we know that classism is a part of capitalism. Capitalism is will not work without a class that is exploited, without a people that is exploited. And, you know, I do believe there was a time that the children in our communities belong to everybody. If somebody didn't have nothing to eat, nobody had nothing to eat.
Right.
If somebody didn't have somewhere to sleep, nobody had nowhere to sleep. we all looked at each other as extensions of ourselves. And, you know, I think maybe it sounds like it's a lot, but I think the closer we can get back to there, you know, the better off we'll be as a people. It doesn't sound glamorous because you don't think about, you know, being a billionaire and being able to use your money to be able to, you know, do whatever you want while other people are unable to. But I wonder how we talk about these things. How do we get to a place where we begin to look at wealth building differently? When we begin to look at community differently.
That's good stuff. I want to come back to that after the gift, because I want to tie in what you said, Shira, and this brother that's on here, his name Wade Lawless. It seems like cliche, but I think it really ties to what you're saying. He says, united we stand, divided we fall. Well, we hear all that, but there's a whole lot of division. Even when we start saying, well, I don't like this group, I don't like this group, I don't like this group, I don't like this entity. There's so many divisions. And I want to go back, Sherry, I want you to come back at that one more time and say, is it critical to find a way to stay together to get this done, or can we get it done with a small divided remnant? But let me go to this, giveaway real quick. And again, everybody that's watching, if you type your name in the chat, we'll put it on this wheel, and we're about to give away our second shirt. And these are tell me some of the titles of some of these shirts, Shira.
So we have on the flyer, we have pictured a shirt featuring Fannie Lou Hamer, the great mama Fannie Lou Hamer. We have on another shirt pictured the great mama Ida B. Wells. And then on one shirt we have the red, black and cream, and the fist up. So yeah.
All right, so y'all see the shirts. We about to go to the wheel of names again. All you had to do is put your name in the chat box, and we're about to go and do it again. All right, let me see right here. Oh man. Oh, Adam won. Go Adam. Good job.
I've been super lucky this last week.
What'd you say?
I've been super lucky. I went to a movie on the lawn at my cousin's house. I won $50. I don't want a shirt over here. I want a book somewhere else. It's good vibes.
Hey, God trying to support the work. That's
right.
Good job. So let's go back again. And again, if you want to win, we got one more shirt that we're gonna give away. Just type your name in the chat box. We'll put you on the wheel of names. But I want to go back at what Sheer was touching. I want to type in Wade Lawless's comment that seems, like, okay, united we stand, divided we fall. But there seems to be a lot of division, and that we're talking about, whether we call it classes and whatever we want to call it. There seems to be a lot of division. And so what do you do? Do you just go and we divide it, and I'm gonna take my little group and we just gonna make it happen? I hope everybody use it as a model. Or do you try in an effort to where you still respect your dignity and your purpose, try to pull these entities together and get those strengths working together? Y'all talk to me.
We should try.
Go ahead, Shanae, and I'm coming.
We recently, if you paid any attention to the post over the last few days, we had that particular deal where a person had tagged me in a particular post, and we had a difference of opinion. And what I gathered is, number one, there was a bunch of people that came in and, oh, you can do this, you can do that. Y'all know me. That's fine. He can do that, but there's another puzzle piece. But like what I stated on the post and what I gathered is, there's many people that feel like what they're doing is valuable, and it is. So what we all need to do is be deliberate about getting together and figuring out how the puzzle pieces need to work together. I think we always get into where we can't work together because we don't agree on this, we don't agree on that, not realizing that an infrastructure is a bunch of different pieces that are intertwined together in order to make it stronger. Ironically, my background is like the Brooklyn Bridge. That bridge is strong because of all of the different components that come together to make it strong. each entity that is doing something else, even some things that look like they might be directly aligned, we need to be more deliberate about getting into spaces like how we're in this space, but actually getting into spaces to figure out how to create infrastructure, how to build capacity. And we need to even start that when you're getting in these spaces. One of the things that we work on here is building a shared language. So if I say equality, I need to make sure that we all understand what I say when I mean equality. If we say equity, we all need to be on one accord what we're thinking about when we speak about equity. If we're talking about brutality, you know, just whatever it is that we're looking for, even something like village building. Even tonight, we've bantered around and talked about a myriad of different ways that we can look at village building. What needs to happen in each of our communities is we need to unpack those things and then understand, even we might not agree on things, these are the ones where we can work toward. You build that part out, I build this part out. These are the things that we're going to do in unison. And when you look at things, that's how things have been done. Even when they took over, they did it in unison. You had Andrew Jackson passing laws with the Trail of Tears. You had people that actually were going out and doing war. You had other people that were building things up. There were all of these puzzle pieces that went together to take all the stuff that they took from us. And if we understand that we move forward in that particular way, then we are able to build the capacity and the infrastructure we need within our communities for them to be self-sustainable. Because that's the issue. We're the biggest spenders, but we don't have sustainable communities. We can't separate ourselves from the people in power and be able to sustain, because we depend on them from everything, from food to clothes to supplies. And we have to understand, we need to, number one, stop being so afraid for change, but number two, understand why that change is actually important.
Perfect. Shira, you put something there that you said we need to feature. Do you want to bring that up, or?
Sure. There's a comment on the Facebook Live from Kiara Hall that says, I think we move forward in a smaller group while trying to come together with others. That way the action can be taken now instead of waiting on unity before anything is done. And I think that's really important, because if we continue to wait for the participation of everyone, then we'll just be continuing to wait. Some people want to join when they see you moving. Some people ain't trying to start the moving.
I feel that comment, but we're already there. We already have small groups. That's what we were talking about earlier. We have small groups that they're moving, but they're moving within their own circle instead of connecting circles, you know, like this, you know, and creating a bigger circle. We already have smaller groups. You have the Christian church. You have, like Anthony said, the HBCUs. You have the private institutions. You have the institutions that are similar to how the Black Panther Party was. You know,
what do you think about, like, the people? I thought you were, when you first started talking, I thought you were talking about, like, the people who have started to buy land, or people who have created cooperatives, those things that are not geared towards making profit, but are geared towards sustainability for the community. Are you speaking about those people, or are you just speaking about organizations?
Well, those organizations do that. That's what I'm saying. They do that. They do buy land. They do it for their own purpose, though. If you're not agreeing with what they believe or what they preach, so to speak, you know, there's no help there for everyone else that's outside of that. All I'm saying is that we need to make a bigger circle. I agree with the comment. It's just that we already have those small communities, those small circles that are moving, but they're only moving in their own directions. They need to move in one singular direction. It's the same thing as when the Klan first started. They didn't have a lot of numbers, but as they grew, you know, they went door to door. They had meetings. They made sure the Negroes didn't have meetings at all, even though the Negroes would probably just wanted to chill and drink a little bit. You know, they would go and bust up little shack houses, what you call it, little juke joints and stuff like that, because they thought that we were having meetings. They were the ones having meetings, and they would go from county to county, and they would go from state to state, and they would combine their resources that way. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Other countries come over here and they do the same thing. I was in St. Petersburg a few years ago when we had that family reunion, and when we left, I saw a sign that said this property is owned by the Chinese government. I could not believe that. So that's what I'm saying. We're the only ones that are blind to the fact and got our blinders on with each other because of what we were taught and what we see and what we'll continue to be taught by the stupid tube and by other people that are leading us astray, because they know that we have the power in numbers, we have the physical power, we have the talent, and we spend more money than anybody else. We just need to put it in the right direction.
Don't forget mindset as well.
Who said it earlier that when we have somebody that's just ignorant, there needs to be some type of response that deters that action? Because what I'm hearing is, so we got all these groups working differently, but there's some things that you're doing, that you're saying, that's hurting what we're trying to do. But I think that if in an effort to try to work together, if I make it appear that you okay, I'm really hurting the whole. I'm hurting the whole. I'm hurting the big picture if I act like what you did is cool.
Because it looks like we're
condoning the behavior. There has to be a way to address that.
Yeah,
talking about the cones.
Yeah, let me say I was the one that said that in terms of the accountability system. All groups have it. But in terms of working, I am a recruiter, I am a collaborative person. However, there are areas in which I draw the line in terms of moving towards liberation. If we're talking about religion, if your God does not look like you, if your God does not have a form of liberation or inspiration to it, I can't work with you. So in other words, we can't have the Bee Gees up on the wall and we praying to some white God. We can't do that. In order for me to move with you from a religious standpoint, that's a deal breaker in terms of building. Now, I can be cordial with you, but when people tell me that it doesn't matter what your God looks like, that's part of your problem, because the brain does the most developing between 0 and 5. So you already are starting to develop a inferiority complex, because when you think that the God does not matter, by the time you're 12 or 13 or 14, by default, because of the images that you see, everybody who is somebody is going to be white. And if your God don't look like you, that's problematic. The other issue too, from a political standpoint, if it don't have no black agenda attached to it, if we ain't talking about reparations, we ain't talking about redistributing resources, it's difficult for me to work with you from a political arena. In terms of education in terms of education of Black history is something that is going to be sufficient enough so you can be self-sufficient, that you can put food on the table. If we're not talking about that type of education, we're not talking. Last but not least, in terms of me being a member of the NAACP, there are two demographics that I personally like. It is the younger folks, which is from 15 to 25, because they're more impressionable than that. They're not entwined in corporate America. They may not have a family as much. Those folks are easier to lead. Also, they're more receptive, and they're able to do more work in terms of passing out flyers, getting out on the street, having more energy. The other folks that I like recruiting is similar to the Nation of Islam. Our individuals that are part of the system are coming out of jail. They're open-minded too in terms of doing things. So you have the brains of the organization, and then you have also the arm or the brawn of the organization. Those are two demographics specifically that I try to build with in terms of building an organization. You always want to train your replacement, and you also want to get people, man, who are willing to go that extra mile. So when we talk about building, those are two specific demographics that I always tell folks that you need to look at. The bigger organizations that have been successful, those are the folks pretty much that they reached out to. When you talk about SNCC, young organization. When you talk about SCLC, Dr. King was assassinated. He wasn't even 40 years old. When you talk about the Nation of Islam, some of our incarcerated brothers, Malcolm X included. See, these are the folks, man, the template has already been set. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. So when we're asking these questions, I always use history, not just for names and facts, but also as a barometer to go back and look and say, what did they do The other thing too that is different between now and then is we have what we call degrees of privilege. We no longer live in close proximity. Muhammad Ali stayed down the street from the carpenter or the wino. Now you got Negroes around here thinking that I got a mortgage, I got a car to hold nine. I'm not fooling around with that ratchet cat man that stay up in the hood. So we don't have that type of in proximity. We don't have that type of connection where we can reach out and start building like that. So we're going to have to be a little bit more creative in terms of how we build. That's why you have a lot more silos than you do now versus in the 60s. And prior to that point, you didn't have no choice because you were segregated. Now, because of where you live and because of how you think, and you're in that Eurocentric paradigm, it makes it more difficult for you to come together and be on like-minded terms in terms of doing something of productivity in your community. And I'm not saying it's hard to do. I'm just saying we have to think about those variables that make it a little bit harder for us being able to build and create these coalitions moving forward.
I have a question, Anthony, because when you started off, you gave a list of things that would stop you from working with people. Now, of course, I agree that, you know, the Most High Christ was not a European, or, you know, or Judah shall not wax pale. That's a scripture in the Bible. So Christ was a Judite. They're not pale. Anyway, but there are things that you said, I'm just making a generalization, that would stop you from working with our people or certain people. But that's the point that I think that a cousin and some of us are trying to make. We have these borders and fences up when we get shot down in the street every 28 minutes. Mm-hmm. We're still getting redlined, no matter if they say we're not. We still are. You know what I'm saying? And there are things that are going on that's going to continue to go on because they think that this empire is going to live forever. So, and they want us to be on the bottom forever. So my question is, how do we get around having those fences up, even though, like I said earlier, our enemies, they don't agree? But the one thing that they do agree on is keeping us on the bottom. They don't agree religiously. They could care less. The Chinese could care less about a white god. The Japanese could care less about a white god. You know what I'm saying? They have their own. They got Buddha. You know what I'm saying? So these other people work together to keep the bottom on the bottom. They love capitalism. They love that the Europeans created that capitalist society. The Asians right now are getting jumped on because of so-called China virus, whatever. And we've been getting jumped on for who knows how long. And they raising money to stop Asian persecution. You see what I'm saying? So they're working together. We are not. I know that it's difficult to see, but we can, if we have to change people's minds or teach them to change their minds on what they have learned, reteach them. For me to become a Hebrew Israelite, I was a Christian first. There are many Hebrew Israelites that were Muslim, that were Christians, that were atheists, that were Buddhists, until they actually started reading the book, until they stopped listening to what people told them, until they started putting the history together with the book. So that's how they became who they are. But the point is, we need to put the fences down, because if we don't put the fences down, they're putting a bigger fence around the whole lot of us.
Well, in response to what you said, you know, Frederick Douglass once said it's easier to train a child than it is somebody, a grown person that's broken already.
But that didn't mean it's impossible.
No, but what I mean by that though is, in terms of life, you figure you're only going to live at most 80, 90 years old. And we got to be efficient out here too. You know, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying I'm giving up on all black folks, even if they don't agree with me. I don't. But what I'm saying though is, even with unity, there has to be something clearly defined that you're trying to attain. It's not just about blind unity. And all folks, man, that are your skin tone are not going to be with you. We just have to come to that realization that everybody that's black is not going to ride with you regardless. And understand
That's
that
true.
I'm one of them. I'm the person that moves to the center of the aisle more than anybody. You know, but at the end of the day,
Me too.
there are some things, man, that I'm going to draw a line up on. And if I'm talking about being in a community in which we're self-sufficient, self-reliant, there's a lot of black folks that don't want that. They just want to be comfortable within the parameters of white supremacy, and I'm not cool with that. I'm not
That
cool with that. So at the end of the day, there's some things that we're gonna go our separate ways. Because even when we're working together, sometimes I got to leave you out on the side of the curb because you're not willing to go that next level. You understand what I'm saying?
okay.
So
Yeah, I totally understand. I totally
so
understand that the point that I was trying to make is the people that's keeping us on the bottom don't agree. They don't agree at all, but they do agree upon one thing. We need to learn how to agree upon one thing and to get us out of the situation that we in. Although, as me being a Hebrew Israelite, this is not my rest. So we don't even believe in most of this stuff. I continue to be in a conversation because I would rather try than not try. So we know and we believe that we will be saved out of this by the Most High, you know. So in the end, that's what we believe. But me being a black man, I still want to try. I would rather put my fence down and help a brother, even if that brother I know for a fact is not in their right mind or in the right situation that they should be in, because maybe the Most High wants me to do that in order to bring him in to the fold.
so let me
That's
ask
all.
you let me ask you a question, Tori. Let's say there's a meeting or a town hall, and
Mhm.
you got folks, man, that study the comedic science. You got folks, man, who are all about the political electorate. You got Christians. You got the Nation of Islam in there. You got Hebrew Israelites in there, and they've come in there with a specific agenda. You only got an hour to make it work. If you're trying to bring all of those folks, man, with all of those different ideologies, those political preferences together, how do you approach that? And I'm asking that because I just want to know what your thought process is
I
in that
got you.
situation.
Well, the first thing we have to know is the scripture says everything is done decently and in order. So we have to have some type of order. And the one thing that we have to do is tell everyone that we're here for one thing. It don't matter what you believe.
Okay.
We're not spitting rhetoric. We're here for one thing. And we're going to go, we have an order. This person is going to speak. This person is going to speak. These people are going to write down names. These people are going to show you this. There has to be an order in everything. That's the one thing that our community is short on, is order. And the Most High, these people go to church every Sunday and don't know that there's an order to everything. There has to be an order. Our enemies know there's an order. They have an order. They have a judicial system, a legislative system. You see what I'm saying? They have systems in place.
Hmm.
There's an order to it, and that they started that on our backs. The first stock was a slave on the stock market.
Right.
So the thing that we have to know is that there's an order. That's the only way you're gonna have that. I think I know where you were going with that. Of course, there would be a whole bunch of hoopla and this and that and the third, but if you don't start with order, you won't be able to do anything.
And I wanted to
Okay,
add,
let's get ready to do a commercial break, and then Shanae, I want you to come back with what was on your mind. Let's get this last. We got one last T-shirt that we want to give. I don't think I have any. Oh, I typed in okay in the wrong thing. Let me take. I was talking to y'all and typed okay on the list. Sheer, what was the last name you gave me? Was it Lottie Mans?
Let me check and make sure.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know. I
Um,
had okay as the last name, but I think that was meant for one of y'all.
Rena Cohen.
I have that. Yeah, I have that.
She said order is a must.
Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and get this last one. Then we're gonna go to Shanae. And Shanae always close to the end say something
Brings it
that
home.
just that you got to talk to her for her. I wonder if she gonna do it this time. That you. And so I ain't even gonna try to guess what she gonna do. But let's go to this wheel for the last name. the last t-shirt. And when you send us the message for the winner, when you send us, make sure you send your size, your address, and your phone number so that we can get that to Shira.
And don't forget to tell us which one you want.
Okay, and then tell us which one you want. Wade Lawless. Wade Lawless is the winner.
Is that what it say?
It said
Kiara.
Oh, that's what it said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're going to get Kiara one too. I'll buy Kiara one. I didn't know that. I thought it said Wade Lawless. What was I looking at?
I don't know.
Oh, you saying when it said congratulations?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll do Kiara Hall and Wade Lawless, and I'll pay for Kiara Hall. I missed that. I don't know how I jumped out there like that. That's my own daughter. All right, Shanae.
So I just wanted to interject and state that Tori is spot on as it relates to order. So one of the things that people fails to realize, that one of the reasons I'm so effective is I can deal with people that I don't like or don't agree with. And we got to understand that particular part. So for us, one of our hindrances is that we take many things personal. And even though they are personal, business still has to be business. And the reason that order is so important, I don't care what religion you believe. I don't care if you work for somebody. I don't care if somebody works for you. How do you know how to proceed forward, how to pivot and adapt in order to be successful? Having no order. And that's the point. First thing has to be first. And that's how you build out a plane. Everything or every foundation had to be built first. It's like building a house. If you build the roof first, the house can't stand. So that's the reason that order is so imperative. Also, we have to understand that when we're talking about village building, we have to, number one, be open-minded to change, be open-minded to new and different ideas, and realize that although something might have been presented to us a different way, when some stuff makes sense, it just makes sense. Earlier, Anthony made the point that of the people that he reaches out to or the people that he tries to recruit, I full well agree with that, because what I've realized and I know and understand is those are the foot soldiers. Everybody wants to be at the top. We're failing to realize the most important people in anything are the people who are actually willing to do the work. That's the reason that slaves are so valuable. That's the reason that companies always set up for employees, is because without us, it don't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what infrastructure you set up. There is nothing. There's only power where there is people. And when we understand that we are and have the power because we are the people with the power and the skills, and we move accordingly, then we can get a great deal further. We also got to realize, though, as we're moving further, some people don't want to be on board. You can't focus on who's not willing to come forward. What we are responsible for doing is our part to try to engage and give that opportunity. Even when they don't take it personal. You got to keep moving. One of the things I do as a realtor is I go out and I find properties. I go and identify ones that have been taking the tax deeds. I go and identify ones that are condemned in order to rehab them. If I could tell you the number of people, if I could tell you the number of people who would rather go somewhere and pay twice for a home of what I'm willing to sell it to them for because I'm trying to help my people, the number of people that would want to go somewhere like Habitat and have to jump through twice the hoops in order to be financed for their home, even though they know me and what I stand for, we got to understand we're trying to deprogram us from 400 years of programming. And so if we keep focusing on who won't come aboard, we keep focusing on who is against us, we're not focusing on what we should be focusing on, who is on that journey. So out of 10 people, if only 5 are on board, it's still 5 more than what we had. And that's what we got to understand. So as we move in proceeding order, but I realize too often we'll start with ideas, and because it's our idea, we want to hold it so close. So we're not okay if it needs to be changed. We're not okay if it needs to be adapted. We're not okay if, you know what, this might be my idea, but I'm the person who can't make it come to fruition. And we got to get out of that as well. There's many things that we hold close because it is our ideal, but it wasn't set forth for us to be the people that actually implement it or to implement it alone. So even as we're looking at order, we got to understand that particular part. I think what stands out now is even when we look at everybody had so much to say about Kirk Franklin and his son. Even people's responses highlights the lack of order that we have in the community and the lack of understanding and how we are willing to jump on a bandwagon to diminish, to demean, or to judge not knowing a full or particular situation. So the takeaway tonight is, even as we're proceeding forward, whether it's order, whether it's disagreeing or not agreeing, but the first and most important thing is to be educated, to find out all of the nuances, and to be deliberate. When you do all of those things, then you'll understand why order is. You'll understand why it's important to proceed forward with people that we might not agree with or see eye to eye with. Doris says it best. Many of them, most people that sit at the table that oppress us, they don't even like each other. But the one common goal is the number one, to make more, and number two, to make it seem like we're the people that are the problem.
That's good. That's good stuff. This is what I'm gonna do. I think we had a lot of good discussion that that hopefully gave the people that are listening some ideas that you can implement in your places, and to strengthen. And I think we had some really good discussion on, even if you don't agree, the importance of working together, as well as the importance of getting started, but making sure that you operate in order, and take some humility sometimes, because your idea might not always be the one that's chosen just like you wanted it. But making sure that we keep ourselves, open to working together. I shared in the beginning this website, and I just want you all just to take a quick look. So anybody that wants to visit it, and you can put in a request for a membership. I gave the creator of the website, I gave him the wrong date. He was going to be on this meeting, but I told him, he asked if he could come on another one, and I said definitely yes. But this is a wonderful piece on village building and how we work together and support one another. And if you go and request to be a part of this group, you can look at it and see how you might create something like this on your own. Actually, when I was in St. Augustine, I reached out to this brother and said, hey man, I'm in St. Augustine. I like what you're doing. I go to get my vendors and all kind of stuff. And I say, would you have a problem if and this is the order, would you have a problem if I tried to recreate something like that for my area? And this was this was probably a year ago. And he was like, no, brother, go ahead, man. Let me know if you need some help. And just that idea is, you might be able to see something, with this right here, that you say, you know what, something like this could really cause a boost to what we're doing. And so they have just a lot of different topics that they talk about and that they deal with on here. And some of it's fun, but really also just promoting and supporting one another. So go check that out. And I think you'll like it. It might be something you might be to implement in your area, and I'm sure he'd be willing to help you out. As we do each time, we're going to give each one of us about 45 seconds to say any parting words, and then we'll be back next month on the third Tuesday of next month, and we'll have a vendor that'll give a free giveaway again. And so we look to see. We want to thank everybody for the comments. Looked like it had a lot of stuff going on in the comments. And Wade Lawless, I got your information, and I'll send that to Sheer. So we have everybody's information. But I'll start out, and I'll just say, when I came to Gainesville, in the past, I just had horrible experiences working with other religious leaders. I really had no respect. And so I did a lot of work on my own, and we got a lot accomplished, but it was a lot of work, and it really wore me down more than I realized until I came to a new location. And so when I arrived here in Gainesville, I still had some of those apprehensions, but I told myself, Ron, just be humble and stop. Don't look at clergy the way you look at clergy. Be humble and go and just watch and see and try to work. And I've had some different experiences in Gainesville. And there's work to be done, but I've had some different experiences because I humbled myself and was willing to relook at my perceptions. And so it's important to work together, but sometimes it takes humbling yourself to do it. That's mine.
Yeah, I'll go. I just want to say as always, I love the conversation. I love the different perspectives that we bring. I just want to, emphasize that, you know, we have some things already that's embedded in our community that we need to just empower. I think sometimes, I can always tell how important something is to a person based on the money they spend and the time they spend on it. And we need to kind of sacrifice a little bit more money and a little bit more time on building up our institutions, whether they're brick and mortar or whether they're online. And I think those are going to be the things in terms of a teaching tool, and also in terms of a safe place that we can come and we can have these types of conversations. Regardless of what you think, we are trying to get to a place in which we have a thriving community of our own, one that can rival every other community. And that's really what the end game should be, whether it's from a political standpoint, a religious standpoint, an educational standpoint, so forth and so on. And so I definitely want to be a part of that process. Here in Jacksonville, it is a struggle because we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of silos too. And believe it or not, I try to reach out to them all the time, even when I'm, perceived to be too black or not black enough. I hear it all. So I will continue to do that. Love you guys, and cannot wait to get on the next talk and do our thing. Passing the mic.
Okay, I just want to say, Anthony, I definitely appreciate and I do agree with almost everything you say, because what you're talking about is something that actually needs to be implemented. And I think most of us are at that point. I would just like for, if I know I'm not in Florida, but if there's a way for all of us to create some type of uh, um, more of a bond to where we can actually physically do some things for our communities. If we can find a way to reach out to people who are sitting in the background, like they may watch this video next week,
Right.
and be saying, well, I got some money to put into something, I think we might need to think about this, put together some type of platform with the individuals that are here, um, and that have been speaking for the past 8 months, so that we can implement some of these ideas.
Mm,
That's my thing. I would rather do something, and not saying that y'all ain't doing nothing, cuz all of y'all doing stuff. But me myself, I just don't have the funding to put my ideas to use like I want. So that's what I'm trying to do. I have my thing called Man House. I think someone was speaking earlier about basically what I think should be done, which is skill building, helping our communities to actually learn how to build skills. Like Anthony
right.
was saying, not everyone is going to go and try to graduate from an HBCU. They may want to learn how to do something else, HVAC or whatever. So that's what I'm trying to put together. But I ended at that. I just want to say, call halal Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem, Rakar Kadash, and the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of.
So I just want to interject behind what Tori said and give you a concept. Well, it's a few of them. One of them is called a Community Development Corporation. And that is one of the things that we're working on here in Alachua County. And with that Community Development Corporation, it is basically it's all encompassing in order for us to build the community that we want. Some of the things that we're already working toward is the manner in which I go and accumulate properties in order to rehab them and sell them. Those will be done under the Community Development Corporation. The reason that we also are doing this particular entity, there's something called a community financial institution. And those are like some of the credit unions, but literally their mission and what they have to do with their deposits is to actually give back to the community, give grants, give loans and things like that to people who traditionally would not have access to them. Things like housing. Another thing we're working on, so under this Community Development Corporation, is also looking at people who are very deliberate about reparative wealth building, which is a concept of even helping people to repair their credit, helping people to actually directly pour back into the community. The reason we set up this community development financial corporation and this community development corporation is for a few reasons. Number one, it's fine when you got grants and other people and things like that that want to come in and donate to your community, but we wanted an opportunity to be able to build capacity in our community. And so one of the parts that we're setting up now is the financial aspect where people can actually buy into a portion of this development corporation, which will be the community trust. And the way I always give the example is when you're looking at the way the trust model will be, it'll be people from the community. It might be 1,000 people that gives $10 a month. That's $10,000 a month. With that $10,000 a month, if that's coming in each month, within 10 months, you got $100,000. So there's two things. Number one, it gives us power to say, we got XYZ. You need to match our money and know it's not that you get anything from it. It's just a part of your mission as it pertains to municipalities. But also because we will be a nonprofit, we're able to go step to municipalities like city and county governments and say, you all own all of this property. Nothing's been done with it. You need to gift it to us to actually take care of the needs in our community and know there are no strings attached. And so what we realized is, even with all the nonprofit stuff, you gotta build capacity to give leverage. So when we're talking about wealth building, utilizing it as a point for leverage. One of the other things we're now working on now is meeting with the head of the university here in the obstetrics department, because we want a birthing center in our community. We have trained and certified doulas. We have doulas that want to go to school to do midwifery. So we have the opportunity within our community to do that. So we've identified all of the issues that we have under this community development corporation. We're now the people that are creating the solutions. We're building the capacity amongst each other, and then other people, now you can buy into what we have to, but we still get to keep and maintain the control for our community.
Okay.
Good stuff. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank our panelists for being committed. Like we said in the beginning, this is episode 8. We started in August. I think August or July, I believe August. We started in August and have been faithful. I want to thank you all. And I want to thank the people that are watching for your faithfulness. And
Shira, get in there. Shira, get in there. Get in there, Shira.
As always, it's a pleasure engaging in this
discussion. I forgot you, Shira. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So I'm sorry.
We got it. We got you.
Go ahead.
It was a pleasure, again, having this conversation with you all who are on the panel and those of you who are watching and in the comments as well. I would like to say as well that I definitely want to continue to build virtually and physically with the people on this panel and with the people who are watching. And I'm excited to see what that will look like. Definitely ready for this conversation with Shanae to talk about community development corporation.
Yeah, come on, Shanae, I'm gonna hit you up.
And
after Friday or later, I got you.
The last things I want to say is stay encouraged. Oftentimes we for some of us get have bad experiences, and we may allow that to keep us from moving forward, or some of us have not even started. And so I just want to say stay encouraged. If you don't know where to start where you are. If you don't know when to start right now. And if you don't know what to use what you have.
All that. Yes.
The salt of the earth.
Good stuff. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. It was wonderful. Until next month.
After Friday.